What's up, my brothers and sisters? As promised, it's your girl, Dr. Shonna.
Yo, 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 yo.
And I'm here to talk about Selma, Alabama. So I think you guys should all come in with a pen and paper, right? A pen and paper to take notes because we're going to have to go through a little history lesson as I share about my trip to Selma, Alabama, and what I learned and why it should matter, not just to the people of Selma, but to each and every last one of us in this community, why it should matter. First of all, it's important to know what, who, where, what is Selma, Alabama, right? It's important for us to know that Selma, Alabama is a state, a city within a state, and that city has a population of a little less than 20,000. As of 2018, the statistics are saying is a little bit less than 20,000 residents. And out of those 20,000, 80% is Black or African American. Out of the 20,000, 80% is Black or African American. Only about 17% is white. And it's less than 2% who are Hispanic. So it is a Black town. And I say this on purpose because a lot of us, we all talk about how we have to move and we have to be in our own town and take over our own town. And people make it seem like it's such an easy thing to do. I understand theoretically the process of when you have majority of the population, you want to control it politically. I understand that, but I debate that a lot with people because I think before you go into anything political, you have to have economic control. Let me say that again. It is of my opinion, before you go into anything political, you have to have economic control over where you're living. And the reason why I wanted to point this out with respects to Selma, because they are 80% Black, but they do not own majority of the stuff. And you go through Selma, Alabama, it looks like a ghost town. It looks like the 60s. Everything that has happened in Selma, if you really want to experience the past, when I say the past, I'm talking about after the emancipation. I'm talking about after we collectively have become free here in America, after being enslaved for 200 years, over 200 years. If you really want to understand what started to happen when the federal government had no other choice, don't make it seem like they did this on purpose. They had no other choice but to give us our freedom. Let me say that again. They had no other choice but to give us our freedom. Giving us our freedom was a strategy. It was a chess move. And we cannot ever forget that. We got to understand when people write books like Slavery by Other Names, it's not done because they want to live in the past. It's done to educate people so that we can understand that right now, many of us are living an illusion. See, I'm not talking about picking up popular books. I'm talking about picking up the books that drive you crazy, that you have to have a pen and paper next to so you can decipher what is being said. See, if you understand how the federal government works when it comes to law enforcement, then you'll understand why they were sent into Selma. You will understand why the crime rate in Selma spiked. You will understand why I believe this is all orchestrated. You will understand it. See, when you understand the economy of Selma, when you understand that Selma spends more money, I believe it's like 35 million. Somebody's going to have to fact check me. Selma spends more money than what they get in funding. I believe their funding is about $10 million less. So let's go back. So you got to understand first the role of government, right? You got to understand the role of government. The role of government is to protect the citizens, the rights of their citizens. That's the role of government, the federal government. The federal government's role is to protect the rights of her citizens. However, as Black people collectively, and I know we're focusing on Selma, so you could just apply this statement to Selma. Black people collectively, our rights are trampled on continuously, but the government is supposed to protect it. Our rights are ignored repeatedly. the rights that the civil rights brought about, they were co-opted and they were modified. I'm only preaching to the choir. And their rights, especially in Selma, are still unequal. What I'm saying is, when Reconstruction was happening in some areas of the South, they must have just totally skipped over Selma. Like they must have forgot Selma existed. Because the economic and the racial injustices that occur there every day, I mean, it occurs to all of us, right? But what is concentrated? That's a good word to put it. It is concentrated in Selma. And Selma is not the only place. Pahokee, Florida, I haven't even, I think I did a video with that a long time ago. I might have to revisit that video because this is an example of what they strategically do to keep people in their positions. Strategic. They play chess and we play checkers. So let's talk about Selma's economic injustices. Because if the Reconstruction era was designed so we can have economic justice, and we know that never happened, right? We know that hasn't happened for us. If that was designed, I think that we need to visit the economic injustices that Selma continues to face. So let me explain to you guys why the Reconstruction era came to an abrupt end. Because maybe if I put this into perspective, maybe you'll understand what's happening in Selma. So you got to understand, when blacks were granted the right to vote during the Reconstruction era, listen to what I'm saying. You got to know your history. See, people think 1965 and they say, oh, that's when we got our rights to vote. No, baby. No, baby. No. During the Reconstruction era, we had the most black politicians ever. We had the most black people holding high office positions ever. We were voting back then. You got to understand, once that happened, once they granted blacks the right to vote, ooh, baby, white people started playing chess on steroids. On steroids. Do you hear me? So that's one reason why it came to an abrupt end. Reconstruction era also came to the abrupt end because blacks was granted the right to hold office. Another reason is because the government stopped doing their part. When I go to Selma, or when I went to Selma, that was all I was able to see. Now, how is an historic town where it propelled the federal government to sign the Voting Rights Act of 1965. How does a town like that, with that much history, remain impoverished? So I'm scratching my head. And I'm saying to myself, so you mean to tell me that when the Air Force, see, the Air Force is a federal entity. Sisters and brothers who've been following me for a long time, y'all know I always say the greatest or the biggest employer of black people is who? The greatest employer of black people is the federal government. So everybody in their federal government jobs that feel like they're secure, whoop, they're safe. You want to see what can happen to you? Go to Selma. The federal government said, we're out. Pull the Air Force, boom, gone. And all those people, blah, out of work, unemployed. Unemployed. See, we have become so dependent on the federal government. See, we think because some of us don't get a welfare check. We think because some of us don't get federal assistance that we doing good. We popping because we got our federal government job. We got our little government job. Let the government get tired of your ass. Let the government get tired of your ass and see what's going to happen. See what's going to happen with your security. You don't believe me? Go to Selma. Go to Selma. See, once that happens, see, you got to understand, economic injustices and racial injustices go hand in hand. They go hand in hand. See, when enslaved Africans were freed, another form or another status had to replace them. Do you really think that our freedom was going to make us equal? You see, we have to understand what's happening. We have to understand why our status had to be replaced. So when we talk about racial injustices, that's the second thing I'm on, racial injustices. When we talk about it, we have to understand that for a little bit of time, like a day, not a long time, it was illusionary, but like a day, what has been given to us has been taken from us. Just that quick. What is given to us can be taken from us. Just that quick. Selma is still begging for financial help. Selma is still begging for financial protection. Federal protection. Selma is still begging for a lot, despite the fact that the town is 80% African American. Despite the fact that Selma has a rich history. Despite the fact that theoretically they can all work together and buy up those properties and supply the needs for their own people and supply jobs to their own people and educate their own people. But we have to ask ourselves, why isn't it happening?